In today's episode, Lou and I are going to be going through our top 10 songs of all time, any genre, and this is based on our favorites. So we're going to be making a list for what we think is the best on technical components and on impact and the other sort of conversation. But this one was interesting because I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Give you guys a taste of what I listen to outside of the genre of hip hop and also bring in some classics that I love from the genre.
Yeah, this was cool to make just because I was curious to see how many hip hop songs I was going to have and how many non-hip hop songs that I was going to come in with. And it's a pretty balanced list. And what's cool about this too is that like you guys can't really tell us shit in the comments, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how much you may disagree with, like, oh, you guys chose this Kendrick song and not that one, like, nothing matters. It's our personal list, so hopefully you guys enjoy the songs that we do include, and maybe you guys can pick up on some of our taste. But let's get started with the top 10. Number 10, what is your pick, bro?
Number 10, I have Eminence Front by The Who. What do you got?
Number 10, I have Can't Tell Me Nothing by Kanye West,
Wow,
which is my favorite Kanye song.
Fire. Okay, so you're already starting off with the hip-hop. Let me know, why do you think it's one of your favorite songs of all time?
I mean, I was 9 years old when I heard it. I heard it in 2009 when The Hangover was in theaters, which is pretty crazy to think
Iconic
about.
time. What a time
that
it
I was in theaters watching The Hangover at 9, considering like the end credit scene and how fucked up that movie is. But nonetheless, I remember hearing the song as like Alan and the guys are driving into Vegas and just being invested into every single word that he was rapping. And to this day, it's one of those timeless anthems that's forever maintained in my rotation. Not only that, but when you're looking at just the message of like freeing yourself from whatever's holding you down and sort of going after that freedom the way that Kanye is, if that's financial freedom, if that's spiritual freedom, just him stressing the importance of independence has really stuck with me. And it's a Ye song that really puts a battery in your back, and that's what it's done for me. Not only that, but the production too. DJ Toomps fucking banging trap drums to the ominous synths, the Jeezy ad-libs. It's the full package.
It's a full package song.
Ye's still performing this shit at like Rolling Loud, bro. It's still one of the ultimate bangers from his catalog, so that's why to me it's my favorite Ye song. What do you have number 10 though?
Great number 10 pick. So Eminence Front by The Who. So this was released back in 1982 on their album called It's Hard. This was their 10th studio album. And man, I remember the first time I listened to this song was my father. He was introducing me to different rock bands from the 70s and 80s. And I don't know, this song just stuck from like first listen, especially just the storytelling behind it. And as I got older, I started to pick up on the concept, of the song. And if you go through it, it's basically a song about smoking mirrors and understanding that everything around you and like the people that you're observing in different, let's say, shoes in your life are kind of guided about, around like different things that are going on around them. And basically like the song takes place in this crazy coked out party. And like when Pete Townsend, the lead singer for The Who, was talking about the background of the story, he was saying that like, well, I was trying to make this around that time where like, obviously cocaine was very prominent and like a lot of people were in the industry and doing certain things. And he was just looking at everyone around him and was just like, everyone's putting on a front, whether it be the women, whether it be the drugs and everything else that comes with it. So I really found it interesting as a song concept, and as I got older, I started to dive into it. And plus, like, this song absolutely knocks. Like, you have this minute and a half lead and into the main vocals, and it puts you in a fucking vibe, bro. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, and I wanted it to include.
Amazing song. I also love like Pinball Wizard and a couple other Who songs that would probably crack like my list for favorite rock songs ever. But speaking of rock, my number 9 is going to be Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Could You Be Loved by Bob Marley and the Wailers. So
Fire.
This is interesting. I brought some reggae into my list today just because of how iconic this song is to my childhood. I remember summers in Montreal, like this was on the radio everywhere, as like, especially like it being such an old song. Like that's what I find crazy, is that this song is absolutely timeless. And apparently the concept of the song came up when like Bob Marley was actually traveling with the Wailers and they were experimenting with different guitar riffs, and then that's how they ended up coming through with it. But it's interesting because if you actually go into the writing of the song, each and every single line seems super simplistic at face value, but people have a hard time dissecting this song, the double meanings behind each line. So if you guys want to do some genius homework, it's fucking incredible. And this is just a vibe, dude. Like, always puts me in a good mood. My go-to song to be happy. Not only that, but if it's a nice summer day, you want to roll one up, you want to enjoy your day, this is the perfect way to start your morning. And I've had it in rotation my entire life, so I had to include it.
I love that you included Bob Marley. I mean, I was struggling between a few Bob Marley songs on here, and one did make my list, just a bit higher up though.
Oh, very interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that was tough to come down to.
But bring me to Comfortably Numb.
Yeah, Comfortably Numb. I mean, this was an interesting song for me growing up just because my dad was a huge Pink Floyd fan and he would obviously like crack in albums like The Wall into our CD player in the car. And this was truly like one of the first full album experiences I ever had. And I just remember being moved by the music. And to me, this is one of my favorite like progressive rock songs of all time, just looking at the buildup of the song and how brilliant the musical arrangement is from like the slow moving parts of the synths, and then you have two of the most epic guitar solos ever heard on wax on this song as well. And I think I appreciate the song so much just because of the sort of headspace that it puts you in.
Yeah,
it sort of feels
songs.
like you're fucked up on this bad trip and you have this calm guide who's trying to get you back on your feet. And I'm also immersed by like the true story that inspired this. So Gilmore was suffering from hepatitis in 1977. He was about to like perform in Philadelphia on stage, and he had no feelings in his arm, so they actually had to like inject him with some tranquilizers so that he can get through the performance, and that sort of inspired the whole concept for the song, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite psychedelic songs that I've ever heard, especially for the rock genre. So yeah, a lot of memories attached to this one. Amazing song.
Very good pick. All right, this is progressing quite nicely.
Yeah.
Let's go on to my number 8 pick, and this is going to be Everybody Loves the Sunshine by Roy Ayers. I wanted to bring in that
I
for
have
today.
number 8, The Light by Common. Some more hip hop coming in here.
Okay, there we go. Very nice selection. So I'll start off with mine. I mean, you want to talk about ambiance music like you were just talking about, especially putting you into that sort of mood. This is it. And I mean, this is probably like one of my favorite use of the drone synth that you might find on any other track. And I mean, it's inspired so many different hip-hop producers and some of my favorite hip-hop songs from the rap genre to be able to create different types of productions. And this song is also extremely influential to G-Funk and whatever comes with it. But, man, this is just like ear porn, bro. Like, if you just want to relax, you want to chill out, kind of like a Could You Be Loved. Like, if I had to create a playlist of, like, the perfect, like, playlist to start off my day, this would definitely be in contention. And it's crazy because when Roy Ayers released this, it was just like, because I was speaking to my grandfather about it, it was just such it was like a culture shock almost, you know, and like people were really enjoying the track. And it's crazy about how like all these years later, you know, people like me, and I'm only 22 years old, I could go back and relate to this, and I could go and actually dig through the history of it. So I'm interested in the history of the song. One of my favorite produced songs of all time, and I think Roy Ayers is a fucking legend.
Absolutely, bro. I mean, you wouldn't have the types of compositions you're getting from like fucking Kanye and Tyler if it wasn't for Roy Ayers.
Or Dr. Dre for that matter as well.
Absolutely,
you
bro.
know? So he's extremely influential, and just the way that the record is also mixed and mastered. I mean, those drone synths are absolutely incredible. They keep you locked into the track the entire time.
I think I was put onto that track hearing it at the beginning of Straight Outta Compton. That scene when Dr. Dre's in his room and he has all those vinyls around him. But that's also one of my favorites of all time. That came close to cracking my list too. I was thinking about it. Probably top 15 range.
Okay, interesting.
For me. But yeah, my number 8 is going to be The Light by Common. And if anyone ever says, oh, well, you know, hip-hop is misogynistic and it's all about fucking hoes and there's no nuance to the love songs that they have, fuck all that, bro. This is the proof, bro. This is the song to slash all of those fucking stereotypes. And yes, I will admit that especially in 2023, most, you know, love songs in the hip-hop genre relate to, like, sex and a lot of shallow stuff. But I hate, like, the idea that misogynism... Is that even a fucking word? I don't know. But misogynistic type of content has to define the love song in the love song in the hip hop genre, because you have songs like this that totally go against that. And that's what The Light by Common does for me, is that, first of all, you have Jay Dilla and Common working together, which is an amazing team, and everything they did together on like Water for Chocolate was outstanding.
For the genre.
And I love this song because to me it's the perfect mix of my two favorite genres of all time, which are hip hop and soul music. And you have this jazzy boom bap beat with these woozy keys that are implemented throughout it, and you have Common sort of, you know, being really sweet and charming and rapping about the commitment that he wants to make to his lady and to his girlfriend at the time, that was Erykah Badu. And it's uplifting, bro. It's honest, it's heartfelt, and I love the fact that they got a hit out of it without trying to make something that was going to be a radio song or that was going to have ultra commercial appeal. And also that Bobby Caldwell sample that's woven into it is absolutely fucking beautiful. One of my favorite sample flips of all time. And I just love that this is a song that goes against all the cliches from one of my favorite genres ever. So I had to bring it in.
Very
bro.
interesting explanation there. I like that you included this. I would not have thought you would have put this on your list.
Yeah,
today.
bro. I mean,
very interesting.
Listening to more and more Common over the years, it's just I've had a real big appreciation for his music. So I had to put it in there.
All right, we go on to number 7.
Number 7, I have an all-time classic. I have "Stairway to Heaven" by Led Zeppelin. What do
Okay,
you have?
I have "I'd Do Anything for Love" by Meatloaf, bro. So this is
Okay,
interesting. What did you
interesting.
So go for your pick first.
"Stairway to Heaven." I mean, this is a song that I first heard when I was a kid, and this is the one that really formed and molded my ear for music, in the sense that I started to realize, like, holy shit, this is what layers and complexity behind a composition really mean. Like, this was the song that really highlighted how much skill is required to make a song of this caliber.
Absolutely.
And I just have amazing memories of us, like, playing the recorder part to "Stairway to Heaven" in music class in elementary school.
Shout out Mr. Simone.
Absolutely. Shout out to Mr. Simone. So, yeah, it was literally a song that from childhood really stuck with me. And it's 3 moving parts. I love how, like, the composition is laid out, because the first section of the song, you have only these acoustic strings. Then you move into the second part of the song, and the tempo speeds up with every part. So now you have more of these electronic elements. And then the third part is more of this hardcore rock and roll sound. And when you're just looking at, like, the meaning of the song, it's fucking amazing, bro. It's about, a woman who's sort of trying to find her way to the promised land, trying to see if her riches and everything that she's acquired over her life is gonna be to her detriment when it comes to reaching heaven.
I also think it's so cool that, like, they're almost playing on the brink of, like, life and death, if that makes sense to you. And as the song progresses, the line becomes a lot clearer, and you understand where the song's going to be going. Plus, I think it's been, like, years and years now that, like, people have been trying to find a concrete explanation for the writing behind the song. But I think even when Robert Plant had spoken about the record, he had said that, like, it's completely open into interpretation.
He did.
That's interesting.
He did. And yeah, Robert Plant, speaking about him, bro, his performance on this is amazing. The way his voice starts off kind of tender, and then gradually his tone intensifies. Amazing performance. And this song's a journey. That's the best way that I could say it.
Yeah, absolutely. Iconic song. So I brought in "I'd Do Anything for Love" by Meatloaf.
Nice.
And this was one of the first, I would say, rock songs that my father ever showed me when I was a kid. And I really enjoyed it because, like you were talking about with, let's say, The Wall by Pink Floyd, my father had the album Bad Out of Hell 2, Back in Hell. And it was on, like, you remember, like, little VHS, like, little tapes that ended up going in. And he had, like, this old Pontiac van, and we'd put it in. And this would be one of the first songs that would come on. And I always skip to the song because it's a bit later on in the track list. But as I got older, I started to have a very deep appreciation for this, because I could talk about the composition of the song, and there's been, like, live plays that have been made on this track, and it's super iconic. It's one of the best for its genre. But I think the writing is super important, because basically the whole song is, you could say Meatloaf, or let's say a man kind of going through the struggles of love and his relationship with love. So if you pay attention to every single verse in the song, Meatloaf, sings about things that he would do for love, and then things he wouldn't do for love. And then there's a woman in the background that kind of plays with that. And then towards the end of the song, he says, "But I wouldn't do that." And it's kind of playing with the boundaries of man, and, like, playing within that sort of writing, and mix that in with the musical components, even, like, the beautiful electric guitar that comes through, the piano riff that starts off the song and leads you into the main vocals.
What is it that he won't do?
I don't know what he wouldn't do. That's it, but because there's a certain
no strap-ons. Like, what was the limit for him?
No, I'm trying to talk about this song in a nice manner. Come on, man, don't ruin the moment. But what I'm trying to say also about the song too is that, like, I love that concept, because I feel like that's something that we deal with in our lives every single day, is, our relationship with love, and, how we perceive it for ourselves, and how we immerse ourselves within that emotion. And I think that this song perfectly speaks to that. And again, it's another song that's open to interpretation. So it's cool because you can make those parallels into your own life and decide how you want to use this song. I had to include it on the list today. Made my number 7 spot.
All right, let's go into our number 6. So another hip-hop jam for you. I have "The World Is Yours" by Nas. What do you have?
That is going to be much higher on my list.
Much higher, really?
Much higher.
The exact same song? Interesting.
Okay. Number 6, "I Want You" by Marvin Gaye. So I really wanted to bring this. So this is off of the "I Want You" album that was released, I believe, back in 1970.
Let me ask you, did hearing the "I Want You" sample in the Hard Part 5 by Kendrick, not did it make you discover it for you, but did it make you, like,
appreciate it more
and have a newfound love for it? No.
This has been, like, an all-time classic for me.
Okay.
My mother's a big fan of this song as well.
Fire.
And when I wake up when I was a kid, my mom would, Stingray Radio?
Yeah.
You're familiar with them? What was it called back then? I'm not sure. They were
Don't know.
I think they were under a different like moniker, but my mom would turn on the TV every single weekend, and everything that would be playing would be either R&B, soul, blues, and this song used to come on quite often because it's one of the most iconic of the genre. And what's so cool about this is that if you go through this song, man, it is just so sexy as a track. Like, I'm not necessarily the guy that's always going to gravitate towards seductive tracks, but like you can't, you're in a mood when you're listening to this track. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, Marvin Gaye's vocals are absolutely perfect. I have never heard a singing performance like this in my life, to my preference. There's obviously been like more spectacular like vocal performances, and I know there's
This
probably
is your all-time favorite vocal performance?
for me.
Wow,
Like, for me,
interesting. Okay,
it's
cool.
really up there for me. And I don't think that, I think there's probably better singers out there, but I mean, maybe not than Marvin Gaye, but I mean, you get what I'm
He's
trying
one
to
of the
say
best,
though.
for sure.
Like, it really holds that close to like my heart, and I really do enjoy it. Then what's cool is that this was a track for another artist that was underneath his label, and then he ended up taking it on. And what's interesting is that this track then inspired a whole new like creative phase for Marvin Gaye when he was at a crossroads in his career. So there's a nice historical context for music behind this track, and man, it's so cool because you're getting so many different instruments in here. You get like this gospel near approach, bro, to the track that kind of makes you feel immersed into it. Not only that, but you have like the bongos, you have a beltry in there, you have the congas, like you have so many different types of percussions and different types of flutes working together, and it creates for this perfect blend of R&B, soul, and even rock, because you get the guitar in there as well, and it adds an extra oomph to it. So even for like the genre bending aspect of things, I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorites of all time, and I wanted to include
Amazing
it today.
song. I was thinking about putting in like "What's Going On" by Marvin Gaye or something like "Mercy Mercy." I don't think I would put "I Want You" as his best, but it's an interesting.
It's my favorite. This is not a best list.
No.
This is my favorite.
I know.
You know?
It's interesting. Okay, my number 6 is "The World Is Yours" by Nas, and there were a lot of Nas songs that I wanted to put in here, but this is the one that resonated with me the most. I mean, it's produced by Pete Rock, and you have this amazing, again, a song that feels like the epitome of classic hip hop. When you look at the boom bap beat, when you look at the bars, when you look at Nas taking from Scarface and sort of taking the motto of "the world is yours" and treating it and adapting it to New York, about how sort of, you know, when you're in New York, the city is your oyster type of feeling.
I'm going to go into some writing once I get to the song.
Yeah, the
actually.
writing's phenomenal, and even lines like "Tim's on my feet" make my cipher complete. I mean, the hip-hop references he's making, you could have told he was a student of the game within that track, because that was taken from KRS-One, and then you had Mac Miller and Jay-Z and Ice Cube sort of putting their own spin on that. Also, of course, you know, "I'm out for dead presidents to represent me." We know how iconic that line was, you know, to the culture of hip-hop, and I love it so much, because when you're looking at the song, I mean, this to me felt like Nas's takeover song, where he's like, I'm going to prove to you in this song and in other songs on Illmatic that I have the skill set and I have the wisdom to be the top guy in New York at a time where people were like, fuck, bro, the West Coast is so dominant. We need that new king. And then you have Nas coming in with songs like this. You have Biggie coming in with the songs that he had on Ready to Die, and it's like, wow, what a fucking culture shock. And I could have gone with, you know, New York State of Mind, which is probably his best lyrical showcase, or I Gave You Power, his best storytelling
I was thinking
song.
about I Gave You Power, actually.
Yeah, but to me, this is just the epitome, bro, of classic hip hop. I think about "The World Is Yours."
Very interesting pick. All right, I'm very close to. I'm gonna get.
Is
to
it in your top 3?
It's in my top 5.
Okay, interesting.
It's in my top 5
Now
songs.
we're in the top 5 now. We made it this far. What's your number 5, bro?
Red Barchetta by Rush. What do you have, bro?
I have "Hotel California" by the Eagles.
Yes, sir. Okay,
Yeah.
fire. So we're gonna start getting into our rock bag again. I mean, if you guys have been watching the podcast, or even listened to our audio podcast, I spoke about "Moving Pictures," which was the release by the Rush in the '80s. Not the Rush, by Rush in the '80s, and I had the pleasure of seeing the late and great Neil Peart live. You know, just absolutely destroy his drum set. One of my favorite musicians of all time, actually. Neil Peart. You know, like you were kind of saying with Stairway to Heaven, Neil Peart made me a nerd for music.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, bro. Like, I'm so mesmerized by what he was able to do on a drum set, and it got me invested into the whole culture of Rush, going back into their catalog and exploring all the types of different concepts that they were bringing to the table, because they were making rock music low-key for, like, you know, the science fiction guys and the nerds and the people that were really immersed into storytelling and into concept building. And what's interesting about this song is that it's kind of taking place in like this dystopian state where, like, all like motor oil and like motor cars are banned. So you cannot drive a motor car anymore. And basically the main character of the song goes to I believe his uncle's old barn, and they have a red Barchetta car, and they end up taking it for a drive, and they get into a high-speed chase. And what's interesting about it is that it's kind of a thriller of a song, but the production perfectly matches the writing of the song as well, especially with all the time changes and the tempo switches. And that was one of the first times where I actually started to like analyze how production and lyrics matter on the same front, if that makes sense to you, and how those worlds both collide. So I wanted to include it in my top 5. I had to bring it in today. Rush is one of my favorite bands of all time, and rest in peace to Neil Peart.
Is that your favorite Rush song of all time?
Yes.
Yeah?
Absolutely it is.
Awesome. Okay.
I have other ones like YYZ in there and other tracks, but this is ultimately my favorite.
Awesome. Cool pick. Okay, my number 5 is going to be Hotel California by the Eagles. And when I think about a song that makes me travel, in my mind and really take me to another place, I think of this song, bro. Like, I just picture myself riding on a highway in like a red old 70s like Cadillac convertible, bro, just on the highway jamming out to this song. And it's funny because when I was a kid, I dreamed about like fucking being an actor, bro. And I'm like, when I make it as an actor, I'm gonna be in Hollywood and I'm gonna be bumping Hotel California in LA, and that's how I'm gonna know I made it, which is a pretty funny sort of childhood dream that I had. But I always loved this song since I first heard it. I mean, starting off with the intro and the alluring guitar strings that really lock you into this song that's sort of this fever dream. And I think that the reason why I appreciate it the most is the ambiguity within the message. To me, it's probably the most like thought-provoking and mysterious narrative I've ever come across in a song, where you're like, wow, is this an allegory for entering the chambers of hell? Is it an allegory for like what life is really like in Los Angeles when you're in the limelight and when you're sort of being introduced into these new circles? So narratively, it's always a song that always had me the most interested. And I love when music does that.
Yeah.
When it stirs up conversation, you can go back and forth and sort of debate lyrics and be like, oh, I think he meant this by that. And analyzing this song and like talking about it with my family and friends over the years has been a dream. And I love the haziness of the atmosphere and the instrumentation, the vocals, everything is just perfect to me.
Incredible track.
So yeah, I had to include it in here, bro.
It's one of the most iconic songs of all time, any genre, for sure.
It is, and I hate that there's this narrative of like, oh, it's fucking overplayed and fuck the Eagles, it's the highest selling album ever. Like, bro, I get it, bro. It's a radio song, but it's inescapable for a reason. People love the music.
Absolutely.
It's quality. It doesn't take away from it just because it's been overplayed.
That's very true.
So that's how I feel about that. But let's get into our top 4. Number 4, throwing it back to hip hop once again, I got Everyday Struggle by Biggie.
Very interesting. I thought about including that, but I have The World Is Yours by Nas. So I'll talk about The World Is Yours more or less, and I'll explain to you why I have such a deep appreciation for it. So this is actually my intro to Illmatic. I'm not even going to lie to you. Like, when I heard this song, it made me want to go through the album when I was a kid. And it's funny because maybe that song would have been New York State of Mind, and maybe that would have ended up as my favorite Nas song, but this is what really immersed me into the track list. And I was going through my Scarface phase as a kid, and I'm like, whoa, this is fucking cool. Like, I want to be immersed into like this feeling. And then you start to realize how important this song is for hip hop and how influential it is, and how it's probably the best song on the best album of all time and my favorite genre of all time. And I'm like, well, it kind of clicks all the criteria, and I have to bring it in today. And it's interesting because Nas did an interview and he was just speaking about The World Is Yours and the motif behind it and how he felt about it. And he was actually inspired to write The World Is Yours the first time he listened to Pete Rock's beat behind it. And it was just a complete masterclass of hip hop boom bap. And I mean, like you were saying, when you think about classic hip hop, this is the top of like that list, and this really holds a very close place to my heart. Not only that, but man, you want to talk about the writing of this song? Listen to this. Dwelling in the rotten apple, you get tackled or caught by devil's lasso. She is a hassle. There's no days for broke days when selling smoke pays. While all the old folks praise to Jesus, soaking their sins in trays. Like, bro, what's going on here? Like, this is a different
stuff.
this is a different type of religion that's being preached throughout this track. And what's interesting is that like the whole concept of the song is the world is yours, but it's kind of playing on the pitfalls of it because it's the rotten apple. It's the apple in which you're rotting in. So I love the metaphor behind the song. I think it's triumphant. The whole concept of the world is yours, the historical importance, the intro to Illmatic.
Classic.
Classic song,
And
had to make the list.
I think it's gonna be the only song we probably like have in common for this list, which is pretty interesting.
It is very interesting.
I thought we were going to have nothing in common. But yeah, number 4, I mean, if you guys follow the podcast, it should come as no surprise that I have a Biggie song on this list because he is my favorite rapper of all time. And coming down to choosing Everyday Struggle was a pretty easy decision for me just because this song is the most complete package when it comes to a Biggie track. I mean, it is sort of the darkest and most despairing song I feel like Biggie has ever put out, but within that, you get the realest shit that Biggie's ever wrote, bro. Like, he's painting this brutally vivid picture of him being tired of his lifestyle as a drug dealer, bro. Him having to juggle fatherhood with selling drugs and dodging the law. Like, he's really telling you how stressed out he is, and I just love the narrative-based storytelling that you get on this track. I love the tuneful appeal out of it. I think it's one of the best hooks that Biggie has ever given us. And even looking at like how smooth and calming the production is, I'm left in awe thinking like, when has Biggie ever sounded this peaceful despite him talking about his biggest worries and his anxieties in his life? I just thought that it was one of the most honest gangster rap songs I've ever come across. And yeah, I just think that, you know, when you look at every other Biggie song, yes, you might have songs like Notorious Thugs where you're getting more diverse flows and you're getting more of a showcase of his raw skills as an MC, but this is the complete total package for me as a Biggie fan, and there's no other song like this in his catalog.
Very interesting pick, but let's move into our top 3 now. At number 3, I have Gimme Shelter, by the Rolling Stones. What do you have?
I have Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder.
Very interesting pick. I knew you were going to bring in some Stevie today. I know you're a big Stevie Wonder fan. So I'll go on to Gimme Shelter. I mean, I want to take this back maybe to when I was 11 years old and like the first time I ever watched the film Goodfellas, you know? And remember the Pittsburgh scene when Henry's like having to juggle between like so many different things. And he's
that was stressful to watch, bro.
And that's why like this song is fucking dark. Like if you really pay attention to like the lyrics in it, it's so brutally raw and it's a heavy drawing song, but yet there's like an addictive factor to it because it feels so triumphant and it feels so epic as a composition. And what's interesting is that they made this during the Vietnam War, and they were just talking about how they felt like they were feeling that sort of like political tension on their own band and how certain things were happening in succession that kind of got them down to this one track. And I find that super interesting as historical context, especially for music as a whole. And man, it's crazy because you go through this entire track and you're just left wondering like, what is life? This song makes you feel like the world is closing in on you slowly and sort of suffocating you. And I've never really gotten that feeling from a song ever in my life while being addicted to it. So I'm kind of like, this is so fucked up. Like I don't even know if I enjoy this, but then it ends up becoming one of my favorite songs of all time because of course, the iconic guitar riff that comes through with it, the incredible vocals all throughout it. And it's one of the best songs of all time in my opinion.
It's definitely a very eerie song, bro. Like it kind of, like you said, it makes it feel like the world's closing in on you. But yeah, I thought about including that as well as like Painted Black by the Stones.
I was considering Sympathy for the Devil, actually.
Wow.
That was
another
one of them.
Great song.
Because that's an incredibly written song.
It is.
That's an incredibly written
song. Genius stuff. But okay, my number 3 is going to be Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder. And of course, this is a song from Songs in the Key of Life, which if we're going to do at one point a top 10 favorite albums of all time list, that's also going to crack that fucking list for me too. But yeah, when it comes to this song, I love how emotionally captivating it truly is. Like when I'm looking at the emotions that it evokes out of me, it makes me feel warm, makes me sort of feel a bit sappy. And it's a beautiful concept for a song because Stevie had the inspiration to write this after the birth of his first kid. And the sort of feeling, you know, within this song is just him capturing the immense joy that you must feel when you're laying eyes on your baby, your creation for the first ever time. And that just always resonated with me, like just the excitement and the pure joy that he's going through. And not only that, but his performance is amazing. You have him hitting every single vocal note with ease, with candor. And you also have these career-defining harmonica solos from Stevie Wonder within the song. And
Stevie's a monster.
That's something that like that sold me on Stevie, was being able to hear just how well versed he was in every aspect of music. Like he's really a jack of all trades when it comes to music. And this song, I mean, Bro, if this song doesn't make you smile, you're a piece of shit, bro. Like, you have no soul. I'm fucking around. I'm obviously joking, but it's just to say, like, this is one of those songs that's really for everybody because there's a universal message behind it, and they even recorded like a live childbirth at the beginning of the song to play that as a snippet. So he really put a lot of effort into this one, and I appreciate that. So had to be number 3, but top 2 now.
Yeah, okay.
3 Little Birds by Bob Marley.
I like that you brought that in. Okay, that's in your top 3 songs of all time.
All time, bro.
That's fucking crazy. I have Fear by Kendrick Lamar at my number 2 position.
Not number 1?
Not number 1.
Wow.
Not number 1. But the thing is...
Because I've heard you say multiple times, like, Fear's my favorite song ever.
Yeah, absolutely. For the hip-hop genre.
Okay, just for hip-hop.
I've said for the hip-hop genre. I have my number 1 is going to be Along because of the importance that it's had to my life and how much I've played it in times where I
know what it's going to be then. If it's not Fear, I know what it's going.
So Fear by Kendrick Lamar. I mean, if you guys have been subscribed to the podcast, like Lou with Everyday Struggle and Biggie, you guys know how much I love Kendrick Lamar and how important he is to my listening in music and how much of a spiritual connection that I have, let's say, with his writing and his concepts. And I know that could come off as, let's say, maybe a bit weird, but I don't fucking care, you know? Like, this song just speaks to me on such a deep and emotional level because Kendrick's taking you through the different stages of fear, but with 3 different perspectives of life. One as a child, one as an adolescent, and then after that, well, adolescence, teen, and then one as an adult. And it's interesting because as the song progresses, you see that it gets a lot more violent as consequences go through. So Kendrick is kind of like indirectly speaking about the process of life and becoming a man throughout the entire track. Not only that, but once you get onto his verse when he's speaking from himself and the 27-year-old version of himself, he's just speaking about how, yes, all the pressure is kind of like weighing in on him and how he doesn't want to go back to, let's say, the lifestyle that he was living, but the fame put the bolts in him, you know, like it made him better and it made him a better person all the way throughout. And I love hearing the honesty from Kendrick talking about how regardless of how much money he's making, he's still afraid to buy a Lexus and how, you know, he's still trying to be a modest man throughout all of like the pitfalls that come with fame and money. And I find it extremely noble as a track. I love the biblical references all the way throughout it. It's my favorite hip-hop song of all time, so it came at number 2.
Yeah, probably Kendrick's best written song, without a doubt. But yeah, my number 2 is going to be, of course, 3 Little Birds by Bob Marley, which is, I would say, one of his more simplistic and basic songs in terms of compositions. It's not the most complex, like a fucking Stairway to Heaven or some other songs that we spoke about. But to me, when I think about this classic song, it signifies pure relaxation and relief for me, bro. Like, it makes all of my worries float away every time that I listen to it. So in terms of like music acting as therapy, this has been one of those songs that's really been there for me in tough times, I would say. And it's just one of those songs that grounds me and makes me grateful for the things that I feel like we often overlook. So nature, my family, shit like that, you know, like it really.
It's basically the concept of love and appreciating.
It is,
small things
bro.
in life. Yeah.
Appreciating the beauty around you that you often overlook, like 3 little birds flying by, you know,
Your
fucking
doorstep.
Bob Marley's window, bro, which was sort of the inspiration for the song. And this song to me has always sort of been like the Swiss Army knife of music in the sense that I can play this anywhere, bro. I can play this if I'm on a beach on vacation. I can play this if I'm feeling down and need to pick me up alone. I can play this pretty much in any setting, any time, any era, any fucking decade you want to play this song in. This will live for 1,000 years over. And yeah, like I said, it just has, it's held a lot of weight for me in my life.
I think the simplicity plays to it. I think
It
the
does.
simplicity has a very big part to play in how like people receive the track because it's a universal love song that anyone could get immersed in. And you're right, you know, I was considering it as well, but I ended up going with Could You Be Loved. But number
one, our favorite song
You break the
of
beans
all
first.
time. Yeah, you want me to cut the cheese first?
Yeah, go for it.
Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe by Kendrick Lamar.
What?
Is that shocking?
I don't. Okay,
that
I can't even say
shocking?
anything. I can't say anything. We said we were not going to do
And
any
listen,
judgment.
I never said this was his best song. This is my favorite Kendrick song.
This is your favorite song
This
of all
is
time.
my favorite song of all time. Is that really that shocking to you?
Wow,
Like,
that's a bit shocking to me.
I've played this over the years nonstop. Like every house party that we've been to, like, bro,
Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe by number 1.
my favorite song ever.
I respect
bro.
that though.
Ever.
I respect that. I know how big of a fan you are of GKMC, so that makes sense to you. But number
Yeah.
1, I have Blue and Green by Miles Davis.
Figured.
Yeah. So I think you just need to speak about why this is your favorite song of all time, bro. Go for it.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, bro. If I were to be stripped of the internet, if I were to be stripped of my fucking Spotify plan, and I was just left with like one iPod shuffle with one song downloaded from iTunes on it, this would be that song. This is the song that over the years has stuck through my rotation for the longest time, and it's really sort of like turned my love for music and hip hop into an absolute like adoration for the genre, to a point where like I'm totally immersed and invested with everything this artist does, and not only this artist but every other artist from this genre, because of its duality and how loaded it is. Like when I think about this song, it's so powerful because it's sort of like this song that on the outside is this fun party song, but it's wrapped in this cloak of this song that's actually about artistic integrity and holding that dear to you. And the whole concept of Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is Kendrick wanting to keep his creative control as an artist and not let executives and other influences tamper with his own creativity. And that's something, that's a message that I've always carried within my own life, is sort of going your own way and not being influenced by outside sources and really doing what's true to you. And to me, that preservation of purity within your art, within your values, or whatever it is a message that I absolutely love. And to me, these are the best types of songs, bro. The songs that are like strawberries, that they taste good and they're good for you, where it's like you can play this for anybody and they'll enjoy it for the pure vibe of it and for the amazing hook that's so catchy, but you have that tight message woven into it. And that's what Kendrick Lamar does so well all over Good Kid, Mad City as a whole. And that's another reason why that one is one of my favorite albums of all time. So
W in my book.
Worthy enough of an explanation?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a favorites list. Like, if this was best, I'd be like, whoa, okay, we got to slow it down. We got to slow it down.
But I still think it's one of Kendrick Lamar's best songs ever. I would put this in a top 10 Kendrick songs.
I mean, it's funny because the Tyler thing whole came out right now, and he was just talking about the whole, like, best and favorite thing.
I saw that,
and, like, it getting meshed well. But I think, like, as a music fan, you kind of have that. You know, what you know is the best and what you think is your favorite are two completely different conversations.
Yeah.
But Blue and Green, baby. I mean, this is... This song holds a very big emotional weight to me. Like I could almost tear up like listening to this song, bro. It's had such a big part of my life, especially over the past couple of years when I've needed reflecting time on my own life and when I've needed to dive in deep and just soul search. You know, like this song for me is kind of like my submarine to soul searching deep into my mind and getting to a place where I can't get to if I'm not listening to it. It's literally a song like that where you could sit down. You don't even have to be smoking. You don't have to be under any, substance or whatever it is. If you just want to really dive deep, this is the song for you. And, it's fucking crazy because Kinda Blue as a whole would go into like my favorite albums of all time. I've played that record from start to finish countless times when I felt like I really need a picker upper or when I need a reflective state. Then Blue and Green is always the song that I start off with, and then I'll go on to Flamenco Sketches, another song that I was considering while making this list. And what's interesting is that people might not know this, but apparently Bill Evans actually did the song, and he actually composed the entire track, and his keys that are heard on the track is actually him. But I don't know, man. There's just something about it. And when I was thinking about it, I'm like, is it in front of fear? Is it in back of it? But I think for the way that I felt about this song and like how many times I've used it and times where I need it, it had to make my number one pick. And it's also like, it kind of represents my relationship with my grandfather to a certain extent. Like this was the album that kind of like built our bond for music together, especially at a young age where like he would drive me to certain places or he would pick me up and we would go to different places. Like I brought him Kind of Blue at the Jazz Festival in 2006, and I gave it to him as a gift, and like that was one of my first ever gifts to my grandfather. And then like that's how we started getting into this album. So
it's crazy how like the moments and memories you have attached to music as a kid really shape you as a listener over time.
Well, that's how you know,
mean the most to you. Those are the songs that end up being the most meaningful to you, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, bro, top 10 songs of all time. To me,
it was a very emotional list going through this. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I was trying to gauge this, and I was like, well, I have to be completely honest with this, and I just have to kind of put all my bias into it and like what I really enjoy.
Absolutely, this is the most subjective type of list that we're ever gonna put together. And the other thing I want to say too is that like this is always open to change for me. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like this is my list today. But tomorrow I can wake up and be like, you know what? fucking Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe moved down a couple slots. Who knows? That's the beauty of music.
I
is
don't
that
think Blue and
we
Green will
evolve-
ever be compromised.
we
though. I
evolve
have
with
that
the
number.
music.
I have that number one lock though for me, at least for me. I'm never moving away.
I'm talking about like my own
Okay.
relationship with music. My music taste is always evolving and changing, and these are my favorites. Those are your favorites. But beautiful episode. Hope you guys enjoyed us, and of course, please let us know down in the comments what is your favorite song of all time. And if you guys do want to see more lists like this, please let us know and subscribe for more lists just like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.